Tired of bloating, fatigue and sluggish digestion? Meet your gut's new best friend, NutriHealth 365's microbiome supplement. Restore balance, boost immunity, and feel amazing from the inside out. Smart delayed release capsules, real results. Gut health just got personal.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Thursday's episode of Trending. Today we're going to be covering the shooting in the United States in Washington, D.C. We're going to be looking at AI assistants being hired by the police here in the UK, and we're also going to be looking at a major emergency incident in the city of Birmingham. Welcome to today's episode of Trending, as always brought to you in association with NutriHealth 365. The link is in the description below. We'll start off in America. Mate, the one thing I miss about the COVID era is how it cured terrorism. Like, it just disappeared, didn't it? That always try and find a positive and a negative, because it's well and truly back now. 2 National Guard members in critical condition after shooting near White House. Now, I have seen a couple of reports that one of these guys has sadly passed away, but as I'm speaking to you now, I can't confirm that. I've looked as many places as I can find, and no one can tell me definitively. 2 National Guard soldiers are critically injured after being gunned down in Washington, D.C., less than 2 blocks from the White House, in what the city's mayor called a targeted shooting. Police said a lone suspect opened fire on 2 National Guard members from West Virginia on Wednesday afternoon before being subdued by other National Guard nearby who had heard the gunfire. The world's mad, isn't it? Like, it is mad. I struggle to get my head around stuff like this. Like, what possesses someone to just see 2 other human beings, like, you know, whether you like them or not, or whether you have a prior beef with them or not, or a political beef with them or not, like, to just look at 2 human beings and go, yeah, okay, I'll just shoot them. What possesses someone to do, unless they are possessed, but that's a whole nother conversation. US President Donald Trump, who was in Florida at the time, surprisingly, said the alleged gunman was an Afghan national who entered the US in September 2021. He vowed that his administration would ensure the suspect pays the steepest possible price for an act of evil, an act of hatred, and an act of terror. Now, we've been saying for a little while that incidents like this would ramp up. Now, when I was talking about that, I didn't just mean in the UK and in Europe, although they have done, because, you know, the push for digital IDs, the push for increased surveillance, deletion of freedoms and all that sort of stuff, it's a global thing. It's not just 1 or 2 nations. It's not like you've got a situation where you go, yeah, China's quite bad for that. Yeah, North Korea apparently, not that anyone really knows, but North Korea's quite bad for that, but everyone else is. It's a global thing, which means whatever they're using to target people in the United Kingdom with, you know, this increase in terrorist attacks and whatever that we've already covered many, many times on the show, that's going to be happening in other places as well. And the USA, obviously, because what happens in the USA, whether people like it or not, what happens in America is beamed out across the world. And that's why when people say, well, if I say something about Trump, people will go, stick to your own nation, mate. Well, I don't tend to say it in that accent, but stick to your own nation. Why are you bothered about the US? And it's like, well, because it affects everyone else. So what you can do there and what you can get to be accepted there and what becomes normal there in the US, it does get beamed out. It does. Like I say, whether people like it or not, it's the way it is. Now, what I mean by, when I'm talking about the relation between terrorist acts and the push for digital ID and increased surveillance, deletion of freedoms and stuff, is that for people to hand over their freedoms, for people to accept that, because it's not our natural state. We're free, sovereign human beings. It's not our natural state to go, oh yeah, have all my thoughts and abilities to do things of my own free will. Have that. people, that's not a natural thing for a human being to do. So you need to terrify people into doing it. And how you do that is through things like terrorism and through war. It's a massive way of doing it, particularly world wars. Do you know what I mean? It just engulfs everyone. And through things like pandemics, fake pandemics. People hand over freedoms and they ask for protection. They ask to be governed harder, which they never would do before. And as I said yesterday, would the Americans have accepted the Patriot Act in the year 2000? No, obviously not. But did they after 9/11? Yes. You just need to provide that trauma, essentially. Now, you can do it in a major way with a 9/11 or with a 7/7 or with a pandemic, fake pandemic or whatever. Or you can boil that frog slowly with incident after incident after incident after incident. And as I've said before, you use different perpetrators and different victims. So you can have someone, like in the train incident in Cambridgeshire, you've got a guy with mental health problems, we're told, who stabs a bunch of just commuters, regular folk on a train. So now going on a train is dangerous. You can be targeted on a train, and anyone with mental health issues, which is a lot of people, the world is mental, they're suddenly now a threat to be feared, or at least very, very least wary of. And then in this shooting in America, now the military, the National Guard, right? So they're a target now. And who is the perpetrator to be wary of and fearful of? Immigrants. And in the end, it will expand, as I've said multiple times, to incorporate all different demographics. So everyone's a target, not just the military. Everyone is a threat, a potential threat. Because then you fear everyone, you don't trust anyone, and you are far more susceptible to accept a deletion of freedoms begrudgingly. I don't want to hand them over, but we can't allow 2 National Guardsmen to just be shot in the street. Like, this isn't the country I want to live in. This isn't the country, for the older generations, this isn't the country I grew up in. So whilst I don't want to give up my freedoms, if it means incidents like this are less likely or basically don't happen, then fine. I'll allow it. Now, of course, I'm saying that this guy could just be a nutcase. Because they do exist. Of course they exist. When you talk about, because I'm sure people listening to this will be going, oh, he's going down that false flag trail again. Well, there's 2 things here. No, not everything is a false flag. Absolutely it's not. But, 1, how will you know unless you ask the questions? Because you don't just go, no, that one is... No, that one isn't. You ask questions, and after you've asked questions and got answers, you go, okay, that's, to be fair, that's understandable. Yeah, that sounds legit. Or you get Charlie Kirk, where you ask the questions, you get the answers, and you go, that's ridiculous. Are you being serious? That's gone quiet, isn't it? The Department of Homeland Security named the suspect in a press release, why have they always got names that I can't say, in a press release as Rahmanullah Lakmanal. Correct me, because that's almost certainly wrong. A criminal alien from Afghanistan. His immigration status is unclear. Well, I'd say if he's a criminal alien, that would suggest he's probably entered the country illegally. But then in 2021... the senile sniffer, Joe Biden, was in charge. So, well, he wasn't in charge, was he? Let's have it right. But he was the face of it. So anything's possible. He could have been just, here you go, mate, putting a holiday in. Tens of thousands of Afghans entered the US under special immigration protections following the chaotic US withdrawal from that country in 2021 under former President Joe Biden. Now, I can apply this to loads of stuff, actually, because, and I'm sure people at home, certainly in the UK, were thinking that I'd comment on the budget, because obviously the budget was released yesterday. I'm sure Rich will cover that tomorrow as more stuff comes out about it, but my brother covered it massively on Monday, and what everyone knew would happen, happened. Massive increase in taxes. But The reason why I'm applying that to this is because the best way to get people to believe that what is going on all around the world, because I'm applying all these different countries to the conversation, because at the top, they're all ruled and controlled from the same force. So yes, we've got borders, and yes, we've got elected leaders, but they don't answer to us, they answer to the people above them, and that's what plays out. So actually, all these different countries, they're kind of playing at being independent when they're actually not at all. And things like COVID were a perfect example of that, when they suddenly all fell into lockstep. Now, you don't want people to believe that what's happening in these different countries is being coldly calculated. I mean, a lot more people are waking up to that now, but you don't want them to think that, because that opens up a can of worms. What you want people to believe is, well, first of all, you want people to believe things are great, so they'll just shut up. But yeah, it's hard to do that when basically no one's having a good time right now. So if people are going to have to accept the fact that things are rubbish and bad things are being done, they will want you to believe that it's being done randomly, incompetent politicians, corrupt politicians, but only on a low level, taking backhanders or whatever, but only, from an oil tycoon or something, right? Not higher ups. So that will then keep you on the fake democracy merry-go-round, where you go, oh, mate, these guys are so incompetent. Look what they're doing to the country, opening the borders, allowing anyone in, thousands of people from Afghanistan coming in. We don't know how incompetent. It's not incompetence, mate. But Biden was perfect to sell that one, because the guy couldn't tie his own shoelace, could he? He couldn't walk up a flight of stairs. He would read an auto cue and go, end of paragraph. You're not supposed to read that bit, Joe. So he was perfect to senile Joe, sleepy Joe Biden. All these things were all in mainstream media headlines in the United States. And it created this illusion that none of this was coldly calculated, that it was just a guy, well, one, that he's actually in charge, who's just a bit skit, who's basically making all these ridiculous decisions. And as soon as we can get him out, things will be better. Well, they're not, though, are they? And also, you can apply that to Trump, to be fair, because whatever you think of Trump, I know that there's far less now, but still some people are still on that train. But a lot of the other side think Trump's an idiot. So he's still playing that clown-like role where they can say, yeah, he's making these decisions because he's foolish or because he's incompetent, because he's not fit for the job or whatever. Not that it's all coldly calculated by people in the shadows. And I think a great example of that in the United Kingdom was the budget yesterday. It's leaked beforehand. So Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, that in itself is a mad sentence, that she's a Chancellor of the Exchequer. But she sat there, the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, who looks like a rabbit in headlights at the moment, big time, is answering Prime Minister's questions, and she checks her phone to see that the budget she's about to announce and have to justify has been leaked out, and the press and everyone are tearing into it. And everyone's going, oh my goodness me, what incompetence. That's what they want you to think. They want you to think that the borders have been opened, that have allowed people in that have shot National Guard members in Washington. They want you to think that that's stupidity, so that you will then vote in someone and stay on the like I say, the carousel, the merry-go-round, keep electing people, and then going, oh, they didn't do what they said they'd do. Didn't they? And then you get another one in and another one in, and so it carries on. And the whole time, the left foot is taking us down that path, and then the right foot comes in and takes us down that path, and in no time, oh, mate, yeah, you are further down the road to hell. Now, Biden was clearly not all there, like I say, and so that's great to make it appear random. Same with the Labour Party, and not just with the leaking of the budget, which makes them look stupid. They make themselves look stupid. Now, I spoke about it yesterday, the fact that our Deputy Prime Minister is David Lammy. Our Energy Secretary, the person in charge of our nation's energy infrastructure, how we heat ourselves and our families, is Ed Miliband. The person in charge of our economy is Rachel frickin' Reeves. And the person in charge of the country is Zippy from Rainbow. That's not a real country, is it? And that's why these people are the public-facing leaders. So we will look at them and go, oh, mate, what a shambles. For one, it demoralises us and embarrasses us. Oh, mate, UK, what a mess, yeah. You proud to be British? Not really, mate. So it demoralises you. Look how demoralised America was under Biden. It was one big humiliation ritual. And the other side will suggest that that's exactly what's happening now under Trump. But the goal of all of this is civil unrest. Of course it is. And it's the same here in the United Kingdom. Same in Europe. It's the same everywhere, to be honest. Pitting people against each other, getting people to fear each other, making everyone a target so you're threatened, making everyone a potential perpetrator so that you fear people. And you're angry and you turn on each other and not the people that actually opened the borders intentionally over multiple governments. Because the reason you want people to fight each other, one, they'll be divided, which means they won't come together. And two, that civil unrest can be used as an excuse to bring in all the legislation, all the deletion of freedoms, all the increase in surveillance. In the EU, able to go through your private messages now. All this stuff, not that they weren't already, they get to bring it in using the civil unrest that they have initiated as an excuse. My dad says, problem, reaction, solution. And you see it all the time. And that's exactly what's going on now. And as an analogy for this, think about this as you know, an analogy. I'll say football because I'm English, soccer in the US. You can apply it to any sport that you want. If my target, for whatever reason, my target is football supporters. I want to target football supporters, don't like them. I want to take away football supporters' freedoms. I want to take away any privacy that football supporters have. I want to bring in facial recognition into football stadiums and all this stuff. I want to do all that. Now, how can I get that over the line? Because they don't want it. So in this analogy, the football supporters are basically society. Society doesn't want digital ID. Society doesn't want increased surveillance, lack of privacy, private messages being read, retinas being scanned, biometrics being taken to buy stuff and everything else. They don't want it. No one wants that. Overwhelmingly, no one wants that. But you're targeting them because you need them to accept it. So as I say, in this analogy, the football supporters are essentially society. So I'm targeting the football supporters. I want to bring all this stuff in. Now, how do I do that? How do I justify that? Well, here in the UK and in Europe, it's probably slightly different to the US. I've been to sports arenas in the US, and the supporters are kind of all sat in together. I went to a New York Ranger game against New Jersey Devils, massive rivalry. I'm sat next to a New Jersey fan. We had a beer. It was great. It's not like that in Europe. It's not like that in England. The away supporters are in a separate area, completely encapsulated by the police, right? There's home pubs before the game, and there's pubs that will allow away supporters, travelling supporters in. The reason they're kept separate is because they fight a lot of the time, particularly if it's a rivalry. Like me, Derby County fan, Derby County versus Nottingham Forest. You ain't putting those fans in together because it's carnage. But what if, because your goal is to target football supporters and bring in all this stuff that will take away the freedoms of football supporters, and you need a justification, what if you had the ability to let the away supporters into the home end? Or you had the ability to let the away supporters into the home pubs? You don't, if you've got that ability, you don't need to commit a false flag in the sense of hiring an assassin to go and shoot 2 National Guard members, or even mind control some guy who's got mental health problems to go and shoot 2 National Guard members, or to stab people on a train, or to, shoot up a shopping centre or whatever. Yes, you can do that, and they do that, but you don't have to if you have the ability, like I say in this analogy, to just let the away supporters into the home end. Because I know it's kicking off if I do that. I don't need to even have individuals in that away end that are hired to go and kick off. I know it's going to kick off. Law of averages. You let 1 or 2 in, you might get, dude, you're in the wrong end. Were you wearing a Forest shirt in the Derby end? Sod off. You let 100 in, you might get a bit of pushing and shoving. You let 2,000 in, mate, it's kicking off. And that's what happens. That's what's happened with the chaos leaving Afghanistan. That's a great excuse. Oh, yeah, it's chaos. Yeah, incompetence. Yeah, so because of the chaos and incompetence, we've had to basically import thousands of away supporters into the home end. And then what happened? It kicked off. You surprised me. Oh, well, that's bad. Never mind. Looks like we're going to have to do something to make sure it never happens again. What are you thinking? Well, I mean, facial recognition would be good. Increased surveillance would be good. Maybe if every football supporter needs digital ID to attend the game, then we'll know who everyone is. So people will be on their best behaviour because we're always watching them and we can always track them down. I mean, that's just off the top of my head. I'm just riffing. See how it works, though. And in this situation, you might find it where, digital ID, real ID or whatever in the United States, it starts with immigrants, it starts with foreigners. And then, the natives will go, yeah, well, I understand that. I mean, I'm massively against digital ID, but I can understand it for them. And then them expands and it expands. And, I've got it now, have I? Yeah, you have, mate. It's under your skin. But as I say, as I'm talking to you, both these guys are still alive, not in great shape, but still alive, and hopefully they remain that way and make a full recovery. But as I say, I did see reports that one of them had sadly passed away, but I can't confirm it as I speak. So that's the end of the social media section of Trendy. I'm going to move on now to talk about AI police assistants being hired in the United Kingdom. And I'm going to talk about a major incident in Birmingham as well. Okay, you can watch the rest of it for free now on iconic.com. You just need to click the link in the description.